This week on the Media Corps Minute Podcast, I sit down with Juan Murillo, the store manager of Rochester Ford. We dive into his story and learn what it's like to have an unwavering belief in yourself, to be able to develop and pour into your team, and then also what it's like to ride a line between confident and humble. Guys, you're in for a treat. This is a good one. Juan, how you doing today, man?
Doing great.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you on here. We've been chatting obviously for a while now, and it's been fun getting to know you more and more over the years. And
Yeah.
I was thinking back, I'm like, man, I think when Colton sold me that first truck is when we first got connected.
Yep.
And I was a little guy, and Juan was like, he's big store manager, and I was just like, just Josh coming in. I know. But it's been fun, and 8 trucks later, I finally get you on a podcast, and we can rock and roll.
You're definitely one of our best customers. So believe me, it's like if we have an objective at work that we need to hit, and it's like we need one more truck. The first name that comes across, and they're like, did anybody call Josh? I'm like, yeah, I'll call him, see what's up.
That's great.
Yes, you have a lot. You have a lot of trucks, so it's. I actually couldn't even, when I pulled up in here, I thought it'd be appropriate if I parked over here because I didn't want to block all the Media Corps trucks. I'm like, got to get as much advertising as you can. So.
Well, it's yeah. I'm glad we got you on, and I've had a blast, working with you guys, and yeah, and I know that you know a lot, so I'm excited to kind of dive into your story and because I'm sure that, the guys that work for you, they know, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know your story yet.
Yeah. Do you want me to just jump into it or what?
Well, let's, just before that too, I want you to just give listeners a quick overview of kind of like what you do, where you work, roles, responsibilities, just kind of.
Yeah. So I work for the Rochester Motor Car Company. Currently, one of their stores is Ford, so I'm the store manager at Rochester Ford. It's a member of, there's Toyota, Mazda, Chevy, Cadillac, Car Clearance Center. We have a huge footprint in Rochester.
Yeah.
So throughout my journey, where we are today, I had was blessed with the opportunity to now be responsible for that location. It's our biggest campus. So it's there's a lot of people there, and there's a lot of moving parts. So I'm just responsible to make sure that, we figure out how to win the game and make sure people are taken care of and have a ton of fun along the way.
Yeah.
And we're in the people business, but we just happen to sell cars. That's just, what we say. So it's a fun thing. So yeah.
Well, I've been able to feel that when just working with you guys, and I'm sure we'll dive into that when we talk about how you guys operate and things like that. But kind of going back, I want to dive into your story and learn, what made you the man that you are today, and kind of jumping back, and what was growing up like for you?
I think everybody's got a story. I know for most people, it probably wasn't easy when you reflect back, and I think a lot of it is because people's parents don't know what's right. You learn this stuff along the way. I'm a twin. I have 2 older brothers that are twins. They're 4 years apart. We were 4 minutes apart. We were born on the 4th. So what's my favorite number? 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, but our childhood wasn't the easiest. We grew up. We ended up splitting up and growing up in foster care. And there's for the listeners, I'm sure there's a lot of people that kind of went through stuff like that. So I can relate. You could probably relate. But it wasn't easy, and I think probably the toughest part about it was being split up.
Yeah.
You often hear twins have a bond, and I think early on in our stages we probably did, but have been separated long enough where it's different now. It feels different. Of the oldest twins, Jeremy and Gabriel, my brother Gabriel passed away in 2014 in a car accident. My twin sister Ariana, she lives in Florida,
Okay.
So, and then my other brother Jeremy is in Michigan, so nobody's close.
Yeah.
So we're all out, but yeah, so we grew up in foster care. We were separated. throughout the process, when I said it wasn't easier, it wasn't fun. It was a lot of, a lot of time of trying to figure out who I was. And I finally, after bouncing around from foster home to foster home, I finally ended up with a family that got a special license for me. And it was like, I didn't even think that existed. But this family was completely different than most. They're a Catholic family. I was confirmed Lutheran, so you can imagine the conversations that we had, and they took me in and they taught me a lot of things that I think really pushed me to who I am, today. Because we always talk about this. If you grow up in chaos, what do you know? Chaos. Yeah. If you grow up in an environment that's loving and accepting and diverse, what do you know? How to do the same thing, So I translate that to my career. That's like kind of like what propels me to do the things that I do today at work. So my foster family taught me a lot of things. Humility and patience was, probably the top two. As a kid, growing up in these chaotic type environments, you become very defensive, and we've talked about this before. I'm a defensive person. I can't help it. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. I'm impatient with I know where I want to go, but if there's an obstacle in front of me, I can't wait to let's move the obstacle, let's get going. Yep. Sometimes I don't let things develop or take the time to let them develop. So I need people around me to help me through that process. Yeah. You could probably, with you started a business, do this business thing, and you have this, we talked about your future, right? Like what you see with your business, and the number one thing you gotta do is be patient with it.
It's so hard.
I know.
It's incredibly hard. Because you know what you want to do, you know where you want to go, and it's just like, why is this taking so long? Or what? It's just, yeah, and it does. It takes time, but I think still though too. I think some of that drive is what makes you progress faster than some do.
Yeah.
So it's like I do want to be patient, but I also I want that grind factor, that hustle of why does this need to take so long? Let's just figure this out.
The proactive approach versus reactive. Yeah. I think a lot of people wait for things to happen, and I'm not saying that the things that you make happen are always the right things. They're not. Yeah. But that's that whole when I talk about failing forward, it's okay. I mean, failures. It's fine. It's fine. You learn so much when you're doing it, as long as you're aiming at your goal. Mm-hmm. But if you're just existing to exist. Right. And you don't want to do anything. You just, you're just here. That sucks.
It does, but I think there's people that just enjoy it, and it's weird for us to maybe see that. I remember my previous job before I started MediaCorp. I was working for a company, and there was a manufacturing plant. And the offices were up, and you can kind of see the floor. And I came in entry-level tech, helping people with warranties and stuff like that. Sure. A lot of angry people on the phone, which is fun. But I was in my boss's office, and he had a window, kind of looking over the manufacturing floor. And one day I was just like, how do they do it? How do they do the same thing day in and day out, every single day? Yeah, because it was so foreign to me. I'm like, I'm young, I'm hungry. Yep. I couldn't wait for the next thing. It's like, let's go. Give me more. I want more. And just to see it, I was like, what? And then he just looked at me. He's like, some people just want to come in, get their thing done, and go home and just enjoy their life and not worry about any of that. Yeah. And it's just like, it's kind of eye-opening. Just like some people, we're all just built different, you know?
Yeah, there's leaders and then there's journeymen. You know what I mean? Like when you think about that, it's like veterans on a football team or on a basketball team, right? They don't play very much anymore, but they're not there to play. They're there to mentor. They're there to lead, right? But then there's those, the people that don't want the responsibility. And that's totally okay, because you can't be a leader if you don't have followers. The only person you're then leading is yourself, which is totally fine too. But you got to have, whatever the mission is or whatever your dream is, and you invite people into that, you create these bonds and these relationships. You need those people too, right? But to your point of like, who do you want to be? What do you want to be? You can't, you're looking at everything. You're just going, I can't sit here and do that. Like, I just can't. Before I die, I want to put my thumbprint on this world.
Yep.
Even if it's to the people that we know, you, me, my owner says it, if I want people to say this about me when I'm done, not, oh, came and gone, good job. You worked in a shoe store your whole life and that's it. You did nothing with it, so I don't know. Yeah. Leaders versus journeymen. I guess. So,
but it's interesting though, just like the concept and but I mean, you need both at the end of the day too. And I think it's,
but for who you are, that's not, you want to be leading. Like, again, going back to your business, it's like, you just don't want to own a video company or production company. You want to be leaders in the production company or the video company or the automotive industry. You want to be, keep leading.
Pushing.
Pushing. Yeah. Yep.
So when you were growing up, geographically, like, where was it? Was it like here or somewhere else?
Pretty much though, the Midwest, I grew up in,
same.
It's all the same. I grew up in, I was born in Illinois, and after a few years there, I moved to Wisconsin. So, but I grew up mostly in the Marshfield, Wisconsin area. If I say Pittsville, people don't really know where Pittsville is, but it's a dead center of Wisconsin, literally.
Okay.
A sign that when you drive into Pittsville of like 800 people, it says, "Welcome to the center of the state, Pittsville." But anyway, so I say Marshfield because people know St. Joseph's Hospital is there, blah, blah, blah. But that's where, I'd say I spent most of my life there, but then I moved from there to Winona, and then in this area. So, the Rochester area is, but again, it's pretty much the same.
So was Winona school, or why the move to Winona?
So I got into the retail world like super early in my life.
Okay.
So I enjoy sports. So in high school I did play basketball, but my summers, instead of, traveling with the team and playing sports, I ended up in the workforce. I worked for a shoe store in Marshfield, Wisconsin, at a super young age, and fell in love with sales.
Okay.
And I think it was because every day and every opportunity with a new person was new. It was different. It was never the same thing. Even though you sold the same stuff all the time, people needed, whatever it was, shoes or whatever, and that's what it was. They needed it for something different all the time. I'm on my feet a lot, so I need the best shoes. I run, I'm in sports, I do all this. So, but I fell in love with selling stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it was nice to find the value of something, offer it to somebody, and then see if it fits their lifestyle need. And if it did, it felt really good to go, you want to buy it? Because that's, I think that's, in sales, that's like the number one problem. You do a great job, but you just don't ask to do business. Like, ask people to do business. You'd be amazed at how many people go, hell yeah, I want to do this, so. So I worked in the shoe store for a while, and then that they promoted me to the Winona area. And,
how long was that between working there and kind of getting promoted, moving to a different store?
So I was 16 when I got into the business, and then in 2000, I think it was 2001, is when I moved to Winona. So it was a very short time. I was blessed with the opportunity of running a store at one of the youngest ages that the shoe company that I worked for had, so it was pretty cool to know that me and two other people that's ever done it was at this super young age, 20 years old or whatever it was, and to be able to do it. So moved to Winona, small town, lot of money, but they don't like to spend their money, in a mall. When I look back at it, I just couldn't believe I did it for so many years, because I did it all for 10 years, and
oh wow.
And I've traveled around, I had a lot of fun helping open new stores. So they always do their grand openings, and they'd always, we need killer salespeople to come in and just make it happen. So I got to travel from Burnsville, Eau Claire, Rice Lake. They would take me all over just to go in there and sling a bunch of shoes.
That's hilarious. So you would just like stay there for a period of time,
like a week, and then you just
help sell a bunch,
hustle shoes, and you're like,
that's great.
It's like that movie The Goods, when they bring in the car salespeople to save the dealership, Selleck Motors or whatever. But anyway, so then. Winona, met my wife, early. Jen, love her to death. She is, her. She's one amazing person. She is so talented. and started a family early, so and today, I have a 21-year-old son,
Yeah.
Jean Paulo. He's doing his own thing now, so it's weird to be empty nesters at 43. So put the math together, you can kind of figure out what happened there. But it worked out, and from Winona, we...
Was she going to school there?
Yeah,
Is
she
that
was going to St. Mary's. Yep.
Okay.
She got her degree in marketing and business and design and stuff at St. Mary's. So, I mean, she's got the credentials and she's got all the talent over here that, she kicks butt in. So
did you sell her a pair of shoes or what?
No. Long story short with that, she actually worked at one of the anchor stores, which was like the grocery store that was in the mall there.
Okay,
Winona.
yeah. Yep.
So whenever I would need something to get or wanted to get something to eat, I'd walk in there and get something. Well, she was always behind the counter, and I noticed her right away, and I was just like, oh damn,
This is Juan, young stud with his new kicks on. Hey.
Yeah, and then I didn't know this, but later on in our relationship, she told me that she used to come down to the shoe store to see if I was there.
That's great.
Yeah, so we had this thing going, and it kicked off. Everything was great, and I got when we were having Paulo, I took a break from the shoe store because I couldn't keep moving and stuff, and then it was basically a year hiatus away from the company.
Yep.
Got back into the company. Fast forward, I was with them for 10 years, and then it was in Illinois was my last stop in Champaign-Urbana, and if you've ever worked in a mall, the retail hours suck. I was averaging 86 hours a week, making
Holy smokes.
nothing for money. Like, for real. If I told you what I was making, you'd be like, what the hell?
So was it commission or just hourly or like?
It was salary and commission, but it was all based on how you manage your team. If you have too many people, you know how it is with expenses. If you have to pay out too much, you don't get to keep anything on the bottom line.
Yep.
And the bottom line was important to the managers that ran the stores, just like any other business. You can't get a bonus if you don't have any money in there.
Yeah.
So what did you do? You usually cut personnel, and then you work the hours, right? And then you sold all the product and so forth. Well, it just got to a point where you can't have a family, you can't raise a family in an environment like that. So then I started to think about going back to my childhood. I mean, what was that like? Well, I don't want my son growing up in an area where he's neglected of time. Right. And I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out. And then my wife, I mean, I'll say this because when she sees it, this is her words, right? She says to me, Juan, you're either married to the shoe store or you're married to me. What's it going to be? And I'm like, I don't think she'd ever leave me. You weren't going to leave me, right? So, but I'm like, you know what? You're right. Called my boss, said I quit. We moved back home. Yeah. On our drive home, because we were selling our house up here, on our drive home, I got a call from the real estate agent that they sold our house. So we didn't have a house to come home to.
Oh, geez.
So I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So we figured that out. And moved to Rochester, bought a home in Byron, right?
So why Rochester?
Opportunity, right? You think about it, you're like, I spent long enough in Winona to know that, again, what we were talking about before, you're looking at a, manufacturing, you're like, you're not going anywhere in something like this. And nothing against Winona, but it's already seasoned. Yep. It's already set. Yep. So a lot of the people that own businesses there are family-owned businesses for a long time.
Long time.
Or if you've ever been there and you're downtown where all the college kids like to hang out, those businesses come and go all the time. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not about that life.
Winona's interesting. Like that's been a hard market for even us to try to break into because they're very.
It's old and tight.
Yeah, it's just like like La Crosse, we do a ton there, but like Winona, right next door, no, we don't want outsiders. I was like, what?
And that's got to change too, it's like, as the different age groups start to infiltrate and take over.
Generational,
yeah.
But I mean, being in Winona, you obviously knew of Rochester and you could see more, opportunity and potential there.
Yeah, so move up here into Byron. The Byron area is awesome. The Casa Manorville area, which is where we live now, it's awesome. It's and in Rochester, everybody knows this. Everybody talks about it. If the economy sucks, Rochester's still good. If the economy is great, Rochester's even doing better. It's like they got this dome, this bubble over Rochester that they like can't get hurt. Is what it seems. So we knew that early. And that's, if you wanted to try to start a career in something, go to a place where it just seems like if you start a business, it's pretty successful. You got people that support their communities all the time, and hence the business I'm in today. I love it because that is part of one of our values, is to be a good community citizen. And the only way that your area thrives is if you have businesses like that pour into the community.
Absolutely.
So, and you know what that's about.
There's a ton of that here.
Yeah.
Supporting locals, supporting the community.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good.
So how'd you get into automotive then?
So,
because was that the next step?
It yes and no.
Okay.
That year that I took off, or when I left, I'm sorry, I jumped into this company I was a road dog, basically. I went and helped all the mom and pop dealerships set up a finance opportunity for their customers that could compete with the franchise dealerships, because they couldn't. Those small dealers could not compete with them.
Interesting, yeah.
Because they thrived on, or relied on, I should say, when they had a customer come in and they wanted to buy the car, they hoped that you would come back with a check from their bank, because they didn't offer finance.
Yeah.
So this company I worked for then basically built this strategy of like, well, let's get into their dealerships, show them that they can finance their customers so that the customer wouldn't leave, and then they would buy cars through them.
Right.
So I helped that company grow. And
You're just going from dealership to dealership doing that.
And it is, I hate to say it, but it's almost like, you're a Kirby vacuum sales person. And not, hey, let me in. Let me show you how to make some money and keep your customers from leaving you. So I did that, and after about a year of that, again, you're on the road all the time, and it didn't work out for me. But I learned something. I fell in love with the automotive industry, and I was like, man, this is cool, because I like selling stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is kind of cool. So when we were in the Byron area or Rochester area, I just remember driving past the Toyota store when it was brand new in 07, and this is in 08, right?
Oh wow!
So
that's when this one was built south.
In 07, yep.
Yeah.
And it's intimidating. Thing's huge.
It's big.
and if you really haven't been in the automotive industry, I understand why people have anxiety when they come to the dealership. It's not just like the stigma, and we'll get into that, the stigma of the industry, but it's more or less like, holy crap, look at this thing. This is huge. It's gorgeous. It's bright and shiny, and you're like, you almost feel guilty opening the door. You're afraid you're going to get it dirty, And so anyway, so I remember I was like, screw it. I turned around. I already applied for a job at a bank. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, I need to find something different. And got hired at the bank, but I didn't start. They offered me the job, and then I just drove in and walked into the dealership and literally said to the person at the desk, I'm just looking for a job. And I'm like, do you guys have an application or whatever? And I'm sitting there filling out an application, and the GSM at the time walks by me and looks like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, what? And I'm like, just applying for a job. And because it was a brand new store, they're looking for people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're trying to grow the business. And it was right then and there I got hired. And so I came home, called the wife and said, here's the deal, blah, blah, blah. Gave her the overview. And she's like, you want to sell cars? Because isn't that think about the stigma of this industry, right? That's what people think, of the automotive industry has this stigma about it. And it's like you want to be a used car salesman? They're snakes. and you're like, no, it's not like that, but I was excited to do this because Rochester Motor Cars is a one price store. So there is no negotiating, right? There is no lying to your customer to try to get them to spend more money. But then this other customer that's looking at the same vehicle is a better negotiator, so they get to spend less money. You know what? Maybe they're friends or family, so they pay two different prices. I didn't want to deal with that. I just wanted to be able to go meet people, and like I was saying before, create relationships with people. And ask them to do business. Like, hey, did you like the car? To the point. Hey, did you like it? Did it work out? Yeah. Want to buy it? And
hey, you want to buy it?
And people were like, yeah, I think I do. And more people said yes than no. I mean, that's just what it came down to. But I fell in love with it. I was like, this is so awesome. And I remember calling my wife after the first month, because I sold for the first 10 days after training. I'm sorry, the last 4 days is what we got to sell. So it was more of just practicing and getting it
As part of your training?
as part of the training.
Yeah.
And then my first full month, I sold 18 cars my first full month. And in the automotive industry then, if you're a 20-car sales person then,
Yeah.
dude.
That's good. Yeah, very.
And I remember my first paycheck. Now, let me back up to what I was saying before when I was working for the shoe store. And I'm not saying the names because I just don't want to put that out there. But my first paycheck, or my pay with the shoe store, I was making $2,400 gross a month.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yep.
Before taxes.
Before tax, yep.
So you take taxes out, you got a mortgage, you got rent, you got a child, I mean, it was not good. Fast forward to the automotive industry and my first opportunity, I was like, this can't be right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just doubled my pay. I'm like, this can't be right. And I remember talking to my boss. I'm like, did you overpay me? And they're like, why? And I'm like, and we're a volume-based dealership, right?
Right.
It had nothing to do with commission, zero commission. Employees are not paid on commission. So I just want to be clear on that. We are different from the traditional model.
Yep.
Right. So if you came in and, like we were talking about Raptors, if you came in and bought a Raptor, or you came in and bought a used truck, our salesperson gets paid the same on every single car.
Right.
So I got to focus on what? The customer's needs.
Yep.
That's it. Right. So
Well,
during my training process, that's what I'd say. All I got to do is just,
Yeah.
are you saying just find a car that fits a customer and ask them to buy it? That's all I have to do. And they're like, well, yeah, and make it fun. I go, I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? So we did that, and I sold a whole bunch of cars for a very short period, and made really good money and was able to change our lives. I mean, I really did. And I didn't know that even existed. You know what I mean? I mean, Jen and I at one point, I tell this story, and it's a short story, but at one point in our lives, we were so stuck that we couldn't even buy groceries. And I remember my wife digging through her purse looking for something. And she goes, it's a $29 gift card story. So she had a $29 Target gift card to our name. That was all we had, right? And I go, well, okay, we could either get really frustrated with this and bitch and complain, or we can figure this out. And she goes, let's figure it out. And I remember we went to Target, we made $29 last for 2 weeks.
No way.
Yeah. So I'm saying you can make that work, so fast forward and all of a sudden you have, a little bit more luxury to, hey, you want to go do lunch? It happens to be $50 and you're like, you don't feel so bad about it. But then you think about that $29 gift card and it humbles you. Yeah. So it's like, I always tell people, don't forget about where you came from, because your life will change if you surround yourself with great people, because great things happen when you do that. Yep. And then when your life changes and maybe you become a little bit more financially well off and blah, 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 don't forget about what got you there, though. Because those moments in time, I am so humbled by that and so thankful that it happened, to be honest with you, because we wouldn't be here today if it didn't. I'd probably be still in the shoe store, not making any money, just living, existing, not leading, so I don't know. Did I run on too much on that one? But
No, that's awesome. And I think it's super important, to have that humility. And I think one of the hard things is, too, the more success you see, to still hold on to that humility, because I think that's a key factor in like a lot of very successful people. Like, there's people that make money that aren't, that are just not nice people, and stuff like that. Yeah. But the people above them are usually like a really just nice, down to earth, genuine people, and they hold on to that humility, and they've just done it long enough where they've seen a ton of success. So it's like, it's interesting, like those layers. Yeah. You can get to so far just, being a whoever kind of person that's just not great, but yeah. You go to the tops to a lot of places, and there's like it's like this just I don't know, like it's a confident humility,
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but in order to be successful in anything you want to do, whether it's business, sports, it doesn't matter. You have to walk the line of that confidence, almost when you get some people where they go, man, he's kind of arrogant, and then you go, in what way though? Like what about it rubs you the wrong way about that potential arrogancy? Yep. Or is it confidence? Yep. You could be overconfident too, don't get me wrong, right? But there's that thin line where if you're not bending the rails a little bit, going back to it, you're just existing. You know what I mean? And I sure as hell don't want to exist.
Right.
You know, I'm 43. When I hit 40, it's what everybody says when you hit 40. You know, you start to think about retiring. Like, are you set up to be able to do the things that you really, really want to do on the other side now? You know what I mean? On the other side of 40. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, I went through a phase where I was like, I didn't feel I was hitting my own personal goals of success, right?
When was that?
Recently.
Okay.
Like this past year, right?
Yeah.
Like last year, early, you know, throughout the year. But it was, it had nothing to do with money.
Yep.
Which is just crazy, because most of the time in the beginning of your life, the only thing that you're fighting for is, I got bills to pay, I got family to feed, I got whatever it is, right? So today, like when I got the job at Toyota, it was just, I need a paycheck. I need to make money because I got bills to pay. I'm $30,000 in credit card debt because of what we had to do when we lived in Illinois. He made bad decisions because the job market wasn't great. You know, and I laughed, like when I sent you the stuff, I said, okay, so I started in the automotive industry in 08. What happened in 08? Housing market, the cash for clunkers, all that stuff. So it was like, I think that's probably one of the things that scared my wife, because she's like, what the hell are you doing? You know, why do you want to do that? It's not a good industry right now, you know. But it's not a good industry if you believe it's not a good industry, right? You know, so that's the piece where it's like, no, you know, I'm gonna be a bull about this. You know, let's figure it out. But yeah, you know, that struggle of hitting that age and then not understanding whether or not you've put your thumbprint on your legacy. What's your legacy? I don't know. You know, and the organization I'm with right now, I've been 16 years. You know, I've been anywhere I've worked, which was basically 2 places, I've been very loyal to, right? And our organization does such a great job with working on keeping people, right? Tenured people. They want people to continue playing the infinite game, you know, and a lot of businesses play that finite game. It's about winning the day, and with Rochester Motor Cars, it's not about winning the day. It's about winning for as long as you possibly can until you run out of the willpower resources to do it. The infinite game, right?
Yep.
But if it's just about money, you can make money anywhere.
Right.
You know, if you want to make a bunch of money, show off your talent, somebody pay you money just to hire you, and then that's it. If that's what your motivation is. But if the motivation is to help people win with you, if it's relationships, you know, I joke all the time because we've talked about it with, I coined the phrase, create a relationship. That's what CAR stands for, is create a relationship. So that's what we focus on, you know, and Rochester Motor Cars does such a great job with their values with that, is like, how many more people can we invite into this company with us? You know, customers and employees. You know, we've got over 500 employees in our company.
It's wild.
Huge footprint, you know, and it is, and I feel like super pumped to be one of the, you know, the guys at the top that get to help make those decisions. I mean, it's like being a head coach in the NFL. You know, there's only 32 teams, and you get to be one of them. You know, so it's awesome.
How did your progression go from, you know, you're seeing success in selling cars, but then when do you start getting into leadership, management kind of roles? Yeah,
results buy you opportunity. Right? I mean, when you're in the retail world, if you're kicking ass and hitting objectives, people see that. So so my first goal, number one, was get your name noticed, right? And I did that selling a bunch of cars. And you know me, you know, I talk a lot, clearly. So not only was I selling a bunch of cars, but just, you know, vocal.
Yeah.
People know who I was, and I was trying to put a positive spin on, okay, if we're ever going to do something, if we're ever going to grow, do we have a bench strength? You know, what's our bench strength look like? And my name would come up quite a bit. From sales, I only sold for a year and 9 months.
Wow.
And most people, like, if you're super successful in automotive, they don't want management, because it comes with a lot of headaches and a lot of responsibilities of everybody else, right? So they stay in the sales world, and we have people in our company that have been there for 15, 25, 35 years, you know, still selling cars. That's just what they do. It's just a daily routine for them, and they do very well, right? But they should. They built a big portfolio. But I'm also impatient when it comes to growth too, right? Because I want what's next.
Right.
So I'll get bored sometimes, which can be a bad thing, right? Because growing doesn't necessarily mean being promoted. Growing means growing within your role and being better at what you're doing now. Work on your craft, right?
Yep.
What can you do right now that's going to better your current role? And in the automotive industry, there's turnover. People come and go, and I knew if I wanted to do something, I needed to set my team up. So I built a team in the finance area and got people in that area before I got promoted. So I brought in people from outside that I showed them the vision, the value of the company, and then we went through that process, and they were promoted before me. And I was okay with that because I knew if I can get this specific role I really, really wanted, I have my team behind me.
Interesting.
So I did that and moved from a salesperson into I'll sum it up as a sales manager, right? But I did finance, I did desking, I did a bunch of stuff.
See, Juan's playing chess while everyone's playing checkers here.
Exactly. I would like to think that because we do do that. And when you have a big company like this right now, we have a board now that positions players like that because we have to, and who's got what responsibility over what people. But in 4 years, we opened up the Mazda store, which has then since been remodeled.
Very nice.
Pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
But in 2012, we opened up the Mazda store, and it was this cool little boutique type, store. And Mazda was being sold currently at the Ford location.
Okay.
And then they moved and opened up a standalone store, which was great. Mazda loved it. Okay. And my boss Mike says, "Hey, can we do lunch? I want to talk to you about something." I'm like, "Am I in trouble?" That's the first thing I said.
do?
I was like, "What did I do?" I'm like, "Oh man, all right." So we go out to lunch, and before I even sit down on the chair, he goes, "I want to run the Mazda store," and we just opened it. It wasn't even open 30 days.
Who's running it then?
I don't even know the guy.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even know that story or that history or whatever that. But I don't think they were set on anybody, to be honest with you. I think
It's kind of just interim kind of.
I think they had somebody and then to just get it up and going or whatever. And I was like, Phew. I'm like, what? Okay. So I get there, call my wife, tell her, and keep in mind my wife also worked for the company for RMC for 10 years as a marketing manager. She even started in sales with me too. But anyways, I go to Mazda, and right away, I'm overwhelmed. And Mazda's like a 2% market share. You're not selling a lot of cars. There was days that we didn't see customers. There's weeks we didn't sell any cars, right? So what the hell am I overwhelmed for?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be, right? But it's the responsibility now. I wasn't just responsible for myself. I'm now responsible for a lot of other people, a lot of money, my owners, trusting me that I'm going to go in there and figure it out. Mike's trusting me that I'm going to go in there and figure it out. And this is the truth. The first day I was there, I tried to quit 7 times. That is a true story. 7 times. So we joke about that to this day. Mike will always bring up the story, but hey, remember when you were at Mazda and you tried to quit and I told you there was no more jobs for you, so you figure it out? And I'm like, I do remember that because he walked me around the lot and finally he just goes, "Juan, you can't quit because there's not another job back at Toyota for you. Figure it out." And I'm like, all right. So, had some help along the way.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun figuring it out, right? Won a bunch of awards. We won the prestigious President's Award, which is like almost impossible to win now just based on their new metric system, right? But we won that. We won all these Gold Cup awards. And Mazda didn't really think, that we were even in the cards to be able to do that. That wasn't even on their radar. It was like, how do we help the new Mazda location in the Rochester area sell a bunch of Mazdas or bring in a bunch of, service or whatever. And so we had a lot of fun figuring that out.
What do you think were some of those key things that helped you guys grow?
Well, belief is the number one thing, right?
Really?
You have to believe that you can do whatever it is, right? I'd always say, if you reach for the stars and you get the moon, that's pretty good. But if you don't reach for anything and you just come to work, you're going to end up in these where you can't ever hit your metrics that you're supposed to hit. You can't pay your bills. You can't do any of this stuff because you have zero belief that you could do it. And as cheesy and cliche as that sounds, you have to be able to believe that. It's like, well, we're opening up a Mazda store, but you're probably only going to sell about 10 to 15 Mazdas new a month. what?
Thanks, guys.
I'm a salesperson at Toyota that was selling 18 cars a month. I can't come to this store and only sell 15, 20 cars a month, you know? You got to figure that out. So we ended up, averaging 30 something a month. Our sales efficiency throughout the country was like 200 and something percent. It was 280 something percent. We were actually selling too many Mazdas. We were saturating the market.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And it wasn't like because, Juan's awesome at selling Mazdas. No, it was like because everybody else didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you hire somebody and you go, hey, here's your roles and your responsibilities, but this is what the roles and responsibilities used to be. But if you never tell them this and you tell them what the expectations, you set clear expectations are today, the only thing they know is this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like, that is it. So, we don't hire anybody if you can't sell anything, if you sell anything less than 15 cars a month, can't work here. Like, I'm saying mentality-wise.
Yeah.
It's not true. That's not what we do. But I'm saying, because we want to grow people there, right? But if that is your expectation, right, after a certain period, if you can't sell X amount of cars per month, you just can't work there because we want you to make money. We want you to be able to enjoy financial freedom. And at that number, you can. Anything below that, you can. And other jobs pay better then. So go do that.
So how did you, get that mentality that your whole team had, that belief, that vision? What were the things that you were doing to kind of get everybody on board with that?
A big part of it is you got to write out your non-negotiables. You know what I mean? Like, here's the things that non-negotiable, we always say hi to every guest that comes through the door.
And did you set those or did everybody?
So you have in all of, obviously in every business, you have a cadence, right? And you have specific processes that you put in place, that a sales process, a leadership process. You have a foundation, and then beyond the foundation is what your non-negotiables are. So like for your company here, right? You have some stuff that everybody knows that is what's expected of them, right? This is what Josh says to do every day I come to work. Show up on time, make sure I look the part, make sure I'm respectful to my employee or to my colleagues, make sure I'm not hungover, make sure, you have that. And then there's these other things that you have on top of that. And that's what grows your business, right? So for you, it might be something that says, hey, when it comes to prospecting, I want everybody in here to at least go say hi to a new business every day or call a new business just to say hi.
Yep.
And that may not even be their response or their primary role.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But leaders don't have borders. They just don't, right? You have to be able to do the unsexy to make it sexy, right? And the people that want to do that stuff win.
That's interesting, yeah.
The people who don't, again, and it's nothing against them. It's just it's not in their arsenal. It's fine, but for me, the team that I want working is a cohesive collectiveness that says we're winners and this is what it looks like to win. And I don't want to do anything less than that. I hate losing worse than I do love winning. You know what I mean? It sucks to lose. And whatever you define losing at, for me, it's growth.
Do you think that's that same kind of mentality? Like, fear's more of a motivator than like, getting something that you want, or
that's always a tough one for me, because if you this is like we talk about this at work, but like if you want it in the worst way, you're going to get it in the worst way. You know what I mean? So, but fear, having a little bit of fear is okay. But if you're always worried about the consequence versus the reward, you're going to realize consequence. You just do. Like if you're so focused on, oh my God, what's going to happen if I don't? Well, then don't worry about if I don't. What about if you do?
Right.
Like that starts a whole new vibration of things, right? Yep. So, how do you transform that and stop worrying? And don't get me wrong, I worry a lot about a lot of stupid stuff. Like if the month isn't going well for the organization, and I'm looking at my personnel going, damn, how do I help him sell one more car because he's got bills to pay too? You know what I mean? And that has to be, sometimes you have to call an audible and you have to bail on whatever the mission was in the first place. If the mission is to sell a whole bunch of cars and do well and enjoy the month, great. But if it's not working out, you have to bail on that, and you got to go, how do I help the people? They're your biggest assets, right? So who's falling behind in the pack? And then how do I make sure I help them get to that next level? And that's what our leaders are, constantly working on. As a store manager, I have to work through leaders now to be able to do that with their people. As a general sales manager, I was working with the salespeople.
Exactly.
So it's like, in it versus on it now, and that's I think that's probably sometimes the biggest challenge for most people. When you're so used to being in it, your bend is to get back in it.
Right.
But then that's not really helping the people responsible either.
How did you determine, like, someone's fallen behind, how much effort you're going to put in, or just go, this might not be for them? Like, where was that line for you?
Well, conversation with people. First, you got to find out if they want it, because you can't want it more than they do. You know what I mean? Like you got to just ask them. Like if your business wasn't doing really well and we were just having a good conversation, I would just ask you, Josh, do you even want to do this anymore? And if they answer, and you got to be honest with yourself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just really got to just hold up a mirror and look into it and ask that same question. So like find that out first. You know what I'm saying? Because if they don't want it, I have to just be honest. I don't want to waste my time and energy if you don't want to do this.
It's too hard to help them then.
It is, because at that point, it's not your responsibility. It's their responsibility to figure out what they want. And then if you can help them get what they want, great. We're in two different industries, but we overlap each other with what you provide, with video and stuff, which is huge for us. Most people are visual learners, right? So you being able to put out these, like this kick-ass video, right? Being able to do something like that to give people the perspective of like, hey, what does your company do? Well, let me show you let me show you how creative we are. We have this, and then we have this video or style of video, and then we have all this other stuff. That's because you're passionate about it. So when we vet things like this, you can tell what the owner or to you, we could tell like, what is it that drives your business? And then look at some of the other bad video companies that are out there. You could tell they're just not in it. Like there's no passion behind it. If they can't project themselves, how the hell are they going to project us? You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you don't want it, that's the first thing. Let me help you get what you want. And if that means setting you free, like that's fine. That's your choice though. You know what I mean? But you still have standards. You still got to have standards. Yeah. And if we can't realize those standards or help people realize their potential, then we got to find a different home for them, and that's through good conversation though. Yeah. It isn't like being impatient and just firing somebody to fire somebody. No. We don't want to fire anybody, but we want to keep growing them, but there are some people where it's just not for them, and they realize early enough that, hey, this isn't for me, and I don't think this is going to work, but how do you help people feel comfortable about having those conversations too, so.
How did you learn how to do all these different things? I mean, developing yourself from role to role to role. I mean, leadership isn't easy, management isn't easy, it's kind of like, you've been in almost all areas of it.
I've always been on a fast track, which is really weird for me, right? When I worked for the shoe company, I was always going to the stores that were struggling, and they wanted me to try to I hate to use the word save, because that's not what I was trying to do. I think what they wanted to do is figure out if
Juan's coming.
Yeah, I was like, here comes Juan. Yes!
Let's sell some.
Yeah, and it was just, I think what they wanted to do was figure out, was there anything left? You know what I'm saying? Like, yep. Could you realize any more potential out of this business? Sadly, I was being used to do that, and it was just sucked. But I learned a lot of this stuff, honestly. Again, going back to my childhood, when you're always in defense mode, you have to figure it out. I was lost in the woods by myself. You know what I mean? I had to figure this out. So I could either lay under a rock, woe me, or I could, ruffle some feathers and be a little bit more direct about what my plan was and whatever that was. And I didn't know it was this today, but I knew that I wasn't just going to exist. So I had to.
There's not enough people though that have that mentality of figuring it out. People put themselves in a box almost. And well, I have to do it this way, and I have to do it. I can't do it the other way, or leave my safe spot, and that was something that I appreciated about starting a company, I said, as long as I'm being, ethical and I'm doing things legally, like there's no rules.
Yeah.
Like you get to do whatever you want and try to
Create
figure
your
it
story.
out and
Yeah.
be creative and it's like, but you don't see that all the time with like people, So now even when I'm meeting people now, I'm like, at the end of the day, if you want to work with us and we want to work with you, why can't we just figure out a way that we can do that instead of just going, this is a one-sum game. Like, nope, or yes, it's just like, why can't we figure this out here? Like, this isn't that hard.
Yeah, getting the people to open the door just for anything, not just business. It's like, how do you step into that? How do you get people to just open the door for a conversation, to create a relationship? And that relationship doesn't even have to be business. It just needs to be, what do people yearn for? Like, it's not money. Money just happens to be that too, right? It's just there. It's like if we all got paid in oranges, we just want more oranges.
It's just
it doesn't
an enabler,
matter.
yeah.
It's just we just happen to choose that as society, that something has value that you're able to trade with and get something more that you want. But if it wasn't about that, people are just about relationships. So for me, again, growing up, what was I throwing tantrums for? It was like, I just want somebody to love me. I just want somebody to say, hey, I love you. And I'm going to help you win too. And whatever winning is defined as for people, it doesn't matter. It's just, if that's what you feel is winning, great. Can I help you do it? So thankfully I had, foster family that figured it out for me and that I'm super, super close with. And I think when it was hard is what made me who I am today. Because if it was too easy, I wouldn't know what it was like to go through some of those instances. It's like when you're trying to lead people, having these intimate relationships with them about this type of stuff is important because it helps you understand how people tick. So if everybody's got a story, man. Everybody's going through some stuff. So how do we help them through that stuff and be part of their story so that they can say, oh, I didn't know that this was on the other side of it. Thanks for helping me do that. Whether it's here or whatever, it doesn't matter. But how do you help them through that?
There's I think in sales, but also in management, there's a trust factor. Like, if someone's gonna, if you're gonna manage me, I have to trust you enough to learn from you, to do whatever, or I'm just gonna be like, no, like that's I'm not about that. I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
The same thing with sales though. It's like I can't have that conversation with somebody like, let's figure this out. Let's try to work something out or do whatever. Because if they don't trust me, it's the same thing. The walls are up. It's like, so there's that trust element that I think two people need to have, and I think that's always something that I've appreciated. Is like if I'm being real with somebody, like they can tell. Like it's just, I'm not trying to screw you over or do this thing. Like I legitimately want to see if I can help you do these things.
Yep.
And it's like, great. Well, now we can skip that stuff and let's just actually figure this out,
Yeah. Yeah. Trust is a big thing. How you get it is through being vulnerable, just because you're the leader doesn't mean, that you know everything, and that's the first thing I tell my staff all the time. Guys, I'm going to mess up. But it's like if you were to buy or build a franchise, an NFL franchise, right? Do you hire people because of their strengths or their weaknesses? You hire for their strengths. You hire Tom Brady to throw touchdowns, not kick field goals, right? Yep. I say that all the time. I use that analogy because it's true. Like if I go and recruit somebody, I'm recruiting somebody to fill a void in our current system that we're not talented enough in, like hiring a quarterback, right? So I need somebody to fill this void. I'm not looking for somebody who's not good at something in this area and trying to develop that weakness. Why? In my opinion, go develop that on your own. Like if you want to get better in here, that's your own personal growth. I'm going to breathe into your strength. Right. If you're kick-ass at throwing touchdowns, let's throw as many touchdowns as we can. Let's run up the score, right? That's I think, where we need to live. But you have to trust that can happen, and they have to trust you that you'll allow that to happen over time, right? So that's probably the hardest thing. So allowing people to understand that you're not going to get it right all the time.
Yep.
Either are they, but you're in it together. That's a ton of trust. And then when you're dealing with millions of dollars, I mean, I could only imagine if I owned all of Rochester Motor Cars and I looked at the trust that we have to put in people and the patience that we have to give people, I can understand that could be difficult, right? That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But if you can step back and go, that's what we signed up for, though. I'm okay with that. Let's go. And now you're not living in fear, right? At all. You're not letting, yourself, move to this side of like, I don't think we could do it. It's all like, what are we capable of? Like when we do roster reviews, I love roster reviews, right? We do roster reviews around the chain all the time to find out what strengths people have, and then what are our gaps, and then where can we move those if we have to move those people.
Interesting.
Yeah, build bench strength, right?
At what level are you doing that?
What do you mean? Like who's doing it?
Yeah. Well, who and like.
So your store managers, your general sales managers, and then your department managers are usually doing that.
And you're breaking down like everybody almost.
Yeah. And you do that, like your store managers and directors and so forth. They'll do that with a certain group, about a certain group, and then this group will do it about this group, and then so forth. And then the fun part about the whole thing is, throughout good conversation, you start identifying people that you didn't even know had a talent to do that. And you're like, when did that happen? And you're like, oh, you didn't know so-and-so was blah, 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 blah. Like, we have a guy on our team, and you know him very well, Aaron Salveson, right? He'll like the fact that I'm calling him out for it. But he's got so many different skill sets that he's not an expert at any of them, but he's an expert together with them. You know what I mean by that? Yeah. So like, he is so good at taking care of people, but then all of a sudden he's really good at making sure part of the store is functioning right. And you're like, that's not even in your job description. What are you doing over there? And he's like, well, I just saw that it was blah, 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 blah. It needs to get fixed, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Hey, by the way, we ordered a bunch of water. Water's all filled up over here. And then I was over down in service and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, you need those people on your team. And that's what I'm saying about like, people having that type of talent, but then trusting that I have people on the team that can do that stuff. And then I don't even worry about that stuff.
Right.
Like, here's an example. And you've been at the dealership, of course, because you own a bunch of cars. But, on our show floor, we have those supercars, right?
Yeah.
So we have the red Super GT. It's a gorgeous car. And we won the opportunity to buy that car when we won what's called Salute to Dealer. And only 6 in the world win that award.
Wow.
And we were blessed to win that award. And when you win it, it has to do with community involvement and then car sales and just customer service overall. So we won that award. It's our most precious award at Ford. And you got the opportunity with this car, right? Nobody can touch that car. But Aaron is in charge to make sure that, like, we have it getting picked up to go to the auto show today. He's the only one that could get in that car, back the car out, then let the place from Ferrari or whatever pick it up and take it there. But he's the only one that could drive it back on the floor and park it. Nobody else has even sat in that car. They're all stanchioned off. You saw that, right? So talk about trust. Holy cow. Like, what? And I won't touch them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Aaron, that's all you, dude.
Yep.
So... So that's, when we talk about trust and stuff, that's like, the big thing. You got to be able to trust people, and you got to be able to show them that you're vulnerable. I show people I'm vulnerable all the time. If you want to take advantage of me, that's fine. I don't care, but I'm not going to take advantage of you, so. Yeah.
So with that, is that kind of like the scorecard model from like an EOS, kind of system? They have like scorecards per person, so you can kind of, look at strengths and weaknesses. Is that kind of like your swing on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their own, in each location we have one model. We call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's your customer satisfaction. How are you doing with taking care of your customers? Are you creating customers for life? Or customer enthusiasm is really what we call it. Employee satisfaction. How happy are your employees? Do they love coming to work? I think that's again, as cliche and as cheesy as that sounds, do people love coming to their jobs?
Yeah.
Do they look at it as I have to go to work or I get to go to work? And spending enough time and energy on having your people feel like I get to go to work is where I like to spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always go well, but at least people know that is the mission. Number 3 is our financial performance. You gotta have money in the till to be able to keep playing the infinite game, right? So people can't be afraid to say we need to make a profit. We have to. That's just, it is what it is. I mean, you're not in business to do it for free. Especially if you have a mission of taking care of people for a long time. You got to be able to have resources to do that, right?
Yep.
And then you have market share is number 4, right? Market share is we just want to be the leader in the market. We want to be the dominant player. We want to differentiate ourselves from every other dealership that's out there through our actions, not just through words, but through our actions. And then you have number 5, which is ongoing improvement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So ongoing improvement just has everything to do like we're doing right now. This is improving our business today. Being able to have a conversation with you. Sometimes it's even, it re-sparks, that fire that's back in my heart that goes, gosh, Josh and I talked about some cool stuff today. I got to get back on that. I just got to get back on that. But if you're not doing this type of stuff, God, you're just going to go backwards, so we live off that model. And then when it comes to growing people, we say, how does so-and-so fit inside 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
I like that.
Have they done anything outside of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 where you go, that person probably doesn't fit the model, or let's find out why. I think, in the Stephen Covey type training, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, seek to understand, right? Then to be understood. Let's find out why. Like if a relationship wasn't going very well, I just had a conversation with an employee yesterday where the relationship with him and I did not, like I would say something about holding him accountable to something simple, but then there was a lot of back talk after it. Okay, we got something going on. There's something. And then you find out later that had nothing to do with you. It's just his own personal story. He's got something going on in his personal life that my job is to listen. Exit the meeting, half hour later, relationships like this again. And now I'm trying to help him through that process, and if that works, great, But yeah, roster reviews a lot of times come inside that. And when we hire people, we think about that stuff too. When we promote people, we think about that stuff. I've been doing it for so long that I think about it just in my own personal life, Is the friends that I have, are they happy with our relationship? Are they enthusiastic about our relationship? And if it's a no, find out why. But you can't win everybody over too. Like, let's be honest, right? Some people you just don't gel with. You can't. It's just, I don't know. There's something in our own DNA where you're just like, we're never going to be friends. I don't know why. I want to be your friend, but we're just not. And that's okay. There's a bunch of other opportunities, elsewhere, and so. But, I don't know.
Yeah. Has it been hard for you to, 'cause you've been in the weeds for so long, on the floor, doing the things with the people, in the trenches per se, to then managing the people that are managing those people, so like one step again further away. Has that been a difficult, thing for you?
It is because it's I'm a relationship person. I want to hang out with you. Like you and I, we'd have so much fun just kicking it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want to do that often, And sometimes I let that, I do too much of that I don't hold the business accountable to the results. You know what I'm saying? So, and as you move up, it gets lonelier at the top. That is a common saying, and it is real. I believe in bucking that trend, though, right? So I believe in, while I need to be on it, I still want to be in it with these guys, with everybody that's in it, right? I still want to be in it. But the thing you have to juggle is you have to be able to let the people now responsible for what you were once doing, to let them have that responsibility and don't overstep that bound and bounds. And sometimes I do overstep that. Like me having a conversation with an employee, a salesperson, should be coming from the general sales manager at the time, right? And it's not that they didn't want to do it, it's I took over, and that's a no-no. I probably shouldn't do that. But at the same time, you go, I grew up with these guys. You know what I mean? I think they respect that opportunity to be able to, hey, Juan's in it, and, as a store manager, I'm normally not technically need to be in the sales center watching every deal go down or every conversation, because now it looks like you're micromanaging people, right? But I like to have fun.
Even though you just enjoy it.
I'm just enjoying it, you know. So then I screw around with the guys, I'm their biggest cheerleader. You know what I mean? So even if we're not doing well for the day or whatever, hey, you'll probably, the managers will hear about it, but for the salespeople, you know, it's crazy, you know. But it's sometimes hard to separate yourself. So you know, I try to do what's responsible, you know, make sure I'm held accountable to the results of the business, but I have to do it through other people, you know, so.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's something that I've tried to balance is certain, like, you know, delegate and elevate, you know, try to put people in the right spots to kind of take it on and thrive in those areas, but still being kind of like my baby, you know, MediaCore's, you know, always been so important to me.
Yep.
Our customers, our product, the responsibility that I take on. So it's like, it's easy to kind of like grab it back and then just, you know, let me handle this quick, or, you know, so it's like giving away, but like trusting, but like having that healthy respect of, well, I still want to make sure that, like, you know, I'm in it and not disconnected.
Yeah.
It's getting done right, but still trusting people to be doing what we brought them in to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I suffer from, like, and this is, again, when I talk about being vulnerable, this is me being vulnerable about it, right? So I don't care if 1 billion people watch it doesn't matter. It's I think where I sometimes suffer is that if I'm not in the picture, I feel like people are saying, what the hell is Juan doing? Does he even do anything around here? He's never at the dealership, which is not true. I'm there all the time.
Yep.
But it's like, but I'm in a lot of meetings in all the other locations. So it's like, well, what does Juan do? I suffer from that, and that's a bad thing to suffer from, because if you trust your owners and your leaders and all that they trust you that you're going to do a good job, well, then you shouldn't fear that. You're going to create something that really isn't there. You're creating this false narrative. I can't help it though.
Yep.
So I feel like, to your point, I need to.
Yeah.
Let me have a piece of this, you know, that I'm still touching. I'm still here, you know, and to them, they're just like, Juan, get the hell out of here. We got this, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I just love the game. I mean, the game is so much fun. You know, it's awesome watching people get what they want. When customers come in and I know my team doesn't have to worry about, you know, commission base, and they can just help you get what you want.
Yeah.
Dude, it's the coolest thing to sell a car then. You know, it's so fun, you know, and I want to be part of that, because you know, telling me that, hey, you get to manage all the metrics of the business, but you don't get to sell cars anymore. That sucks, you know, but at the same time I go, I put myself here, you know?
Yep.
So
yeah, the growth is fun. Yeah. And you just, you get different opportunities, but different responsibilities. And what does the future for you look like, you know, and then Rochester Motor Cars, you think?
Yeah, that's a tough question, because when I was talking about going through that kind of like midlife crisis, that's the thing that I keep asking myself is, what do I want? You know, I got, you know, for how my wife and I set up our retirement plan, you know, we'd like to retire younger than older so we could enjoy life, you know, and you know, we would like to retire out in Mexico sometime. And
really?
yeah.
Okay.
And but I got, you know, I look at the next 16 years of my life, 15 years, right? And just fast forward to that, and you're like, all right, how old are you at 15 years? You're going to do this, you're going to do that, you know? But that's the thing, that's the question that I need to make a solid commitment, because, and I think I think I have already, but the Rochester Motor Car family has been so big to me, right? So much grace in this organization. They almost, in some opinions, you can go, that was probably too much grace. You know what I mean? Like, I stepped out of bounds a couple of times, you know, I could have been a better person in certain situations, but, you know, I run my mouth too much and say the stupidest stuff, and people are like, you know, you gotta temper that down a little bit. But the organization is done such a great job opening doorways for me, you know, and I would say it's a great relationship for us to be able to do that with each other. You know,
right.
I have a talent that they see, they open a door for me, and they let me to come into this opportunity and see if I can make it happen, make it work. But they have given me so much, I have given them so much, that, you know, we're at a point right now where my ultimate dream was I wanted to own a dealership, right? And we've talked about that. But to do that, it's really difficult. It's really cash sensitive,
Yep.
right? And we are a member of a group that can allow for some of those things to happen. Or you close the door on that. Don't lock it, but just close the door on it, and then decide that you want to give the next 16 years to this company. You know what I mean? So while it could be bittersweet, well, one thing is like, am I really closing the door on my dream, and then helping other people realize their dreams?
Right. What's
in it for you? Do you know what I mean? Like, what to make that sacrifice is what's in it for you. And I wouldn't want to do it with any other company. Like this,
Right.
this is a great company to work for, you know, and believe me, it's not always easy. You know what I mean? You know how it is in results based. If you're not getting the results, who's responsible?
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to a salesperson saying, hey, you're not getting the results. You're the person who's leading you, you're going to and saying, hey, how come we're not selling enough cars? Saying we're not doing this, we're not doing that, whatever. But, you know, it's yeah, so it's a tough question to answer because I don't know. I know that I want to keep doing this,
Yep.
and I want to stay with the Rochester Motor Car Company until I can't do it anymore. You know, because we have a big footprint here. We've, you know, I would say I have my thumbprint on you know, the Rochester area through this company, and and you know the owners, you know, so they're great people and they do such a great job, and they're very passionate about their people. You know, the value of our people is their number one value, in my opinion. So yeah, so
I like it.
yeah.
So as we kind of wrap things up too, I always like to ask, you know, you've had an extensive journey, you've learned a ton, you've done a lot. What are some of those key things, even just knowledge things that you've learned that have helped you progress along the way? You know, if you're looking at, you know, there's owners that listen to this, there's entrepreneurs, there's guys that are aspiring, you know, to do things, but like ideally it's that progression, you know, like what are some of those key things that stood out to you that you think made that difference?
You have, you know, the answer to that is like a lot of cheesy stuff. You gotta, you know, put on your boots and tie them tight and just get out there and get in the grind and just make it happen. And that's not tangible. You know what I mean? That's like, I don't know. For me, I think, you know, if I was going to tell somebody, you know, it's like, you got to believe that you have the capability of doing great things. You have to believe that first. And the only way you're going to know this is if you can look in the mirror, physically look in the mirror and ask yourself that question. Am I capable of doing the impossible, or what people would deem the impossible? Am I capable of doing it? And if the answer is no, then you have to step back and go, what am I capable of? And then can I use any of that to project me to that next opportunity of the impossible?
Yep.
And think ridiculous, just like think crazy stuff, you know, like don't settle for just the like when we talked about being in a box, to be safe. Don't be safe, you know, make it hurt. It's gotta hurt. Make it uncomfortable. You have to be able to, you know, when you're uncomfortable, you're learning. You just are, because you just didn't know. And be totally okay with that too.
Right.
Like, you know, if you're in a role that maybe some would deem you as, how the hell did you even get that role? Because people have asked me that before. They're like, you're not even well versed in certain things. How did you even get a role right like that? And it's like, you ever hear the saying, better coach than player? Right? I live by that. Better coach than player. I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there that were not good athletes.
Right.
But they recognized what it took to be great. And then what happened? They were able to identify the people who had that greatness, coach them, breathe into that, leaned into that, and now they become great players. I mean, there's a lot of things like that. And it's like the coolest thing. So like, as a leader, you got to find that. You know what I mean? You got to be able to breathe into that. As somebody that's up and coming, as maybe you're just, I shouldn't say just, but maybe you're starting your career and you're at the bottom here and you want to get to the top, take risks. You got to take risks. You got to be okay with failing. You got to be okay calling an audible when it didn't work and not being so prideful to keep pushing that oh, it's going to work, it's going to work, it's going to work. No, it probably isn't, but try something different and just keep fighting for that. You know, I mean, you gotta let that passion burn in your belly. You gotta be able to want to do this, whatever it may be, whether it's sports, business, friendships, it doesn't matter. It's just like you got to be able to like feel like you're here for a reason. You know, make it count. You know, make it count. You know, so
I like it.
I think that's what I'd
I
say.
think the belief thing is really cool because that's, and even shooting for the stars. I mean, that's like when I look back, even personally, like I couldn't have necessarily pictured we would be here within 5.5 years.
Yeah.
You know, what it would look like, how many people, you know, but it's like, if you're not constantly shooting for bigger things, you're not even going to get close to them then.
Yeah. And you're like going back to like talking about you with this too, because I remember like when you and I would text and then you would say something like, dude, what do you think about if we had a spot like this or whatever it was? And then I would ask you like, what's your plan with the spot? And you're like, oh, we can do this, and then what's that going to lead you to? Everything that you're doing right now, right? So you needed the environment to be able to do the things that you want. But what people also don't realize is you created this environment, but you know what you did for everybody else's environment? You gave them an opportunity to want to do what they want to do now. Because without the foundation, or without, you know, this, we'll use this spot as an example, without this spot, you know, he's not doing what he's doing, right? 4 months ago, right? You know, and so-and-so's not doing, you know, even, you know, Jacob to even come out and say hi right when I come in, and he's engaged, he's smiling, you know. I mean, just think about the level of engagement and enthusiasm that you're able to offer when you recreate the environment. Like I said, if you live in chaos, you only know chaos. If you surround yourself with great people and try to do great things, only great things are going to happen. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. You get to try something new again, you know, and you got the spot to be able to do it. But if you're not willing to just at least take that risk, and you took the risk, I mean, you took the risk to do it.
I just got to keep remembering to keep taking the risk and keep,
Yeah.
because I want to, there's levels. It's weird. There's levels to business, and it's like, you get to one, you kind of conquer it, new issues, new problems. Get to another, and you can get to them, and you can stay there and be comfortable, you know, but like, I want to get to that next one now.
Yeah, and who can you pass that responsibility on to, you know, to help them with their legacy? It's like this: if you just say if you have 10 levels in your business plan, and say you're at level 3, who did you pass that on to that they can maintain, that has their own personal growth within that level? Do you know what I mean? It's like, again, when we talk about growing people in the organization, growing people doesn't necessarily mean you get to be a manager.
Right.
That's not what that means. Growing people means I took your strength and helped you grow within your role. I helped you on your craft. You keep working on your craft. You got better. You got better. Now you're able to maintain. You've become seasoned. Teach somebody else that now.
Right.
And then when you do that, you just grew in your role.
Yep.
And to your next level, whatever you want to do next, if you want to go into a different area in the country, and you're like, here's what I see. Because to you, it's almost like the automotive industry. Think about it for a moment. If I wanted to buy a whole slew of dealers, it's not going to be in Rochester. You know, if RMC says, hey, we're expanding, what does that mean? Well, we're buying a whole bunch of dealerships in Iowa. I'm just making it up. And it's a dealer group that's sold. There's 10 dealerships. We're going to do it. And we are going to call it RMC again, right? It's still Rochester Motor Cars, but second, you know. For you, same thing. If you wanted to open up another or expand into your other area, you have to trust that you're not going to be there all the time. Right. So if this is level 4 out of your 10 levels, and you threw a bunch of people in there to run your business for you, you got to trust it, number one. And it is helping you achieve that next goal. But what is it helping with, you know, do for these guys? You know, and you're growing it, you know, but don't grow too fast either. You know, that's the hardest thing for somebody like you and I, who are very impatient with a lot of things, but don't grow too fast. Let some things develop, let it grow some legs. You know, move it from an infant to an adolescent before you move it to an adult, but just, you know, nurture it, you know, nurture that thing.
Well, Juan, it's been an absolute pleasure. And, you know, I'm glad we got you on, and I've learned a lot, and I think we could probably keep going for another hour and keep rocking and rolling. And,
We've done that.
But I do appreciate it, and it's been a blast. So
yeah, thanks for having me. This is cool.
Heck yeah, man.
And
as always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this one and that you learned as much as I did. Continue to share this out. We're going to continue bringing on great people. I look forward to the next one.